You ever find yourself in a situation where you have to outsmart someone, in business or sports, or even just a game night with friends? A moment where your success totally depends on guessing their next move and then making a better one? Well, today, we're going to dive into the science of how to do exactly that.
Right? It's a question we all face. So what do? Do you go with your gut? Just do what worked last time? Or is there a more systematic, a more scientific way to go about it and actually come out on top?
Well, believe it or not, the answer comes from a field that was forged in pretty much the most intense competitive situation you can imagine, World War II. It's called operations research, or OR for short, and it was literally invented to solve life or death problems, like figuring out the best way to hunt for submarines or how to manage scarce battlefield resources.
Now, the seeds for OR were planted even earlier, back in 1917, with studies on, of all things, telephone network jams. But it really exploded during the war. This team of scientists in England, they had this great nickname, the Blackett Circus, was put together to solve these massive military puzzles. And they were so successful that after the war, the business world basically said, hey, we want some of that, and started using the exact same methods to get more efficient. By the 1950s, it was a whole academic field of study.
So what is it? I think the UK's Operational Research Society defined it perfectly. They called it the attack of modern science on complex problems. You gotta love that wording, right? An attack. It's not passive. It's about aggressively building a scientific model of a situation so you can predict what's going to happen with different strategies.
So how does this scientific attack actually work in practice? Well, the cool thing about operations research is that it's not about starting from scratch every single time. It's built on the idea that a lot of really different problems actually have the same underlying structure.
And for these common problems, OR has developed this amazing toolkit of standardized models. They call them prototypes. Just think of them as blueprints for solving certain types of challenges, whether you're running a company, a hospital, or, a military campaign.
And just take a look at this table. It shows you how versatile this whole approach is. You've got these different prototypes. Allocation, for example, is all about how you divvy up limited stuff, like money or people. Inventory helps figure out how much product to keep on the shelves. There's even one for waiting lines, the science of queues, that helps optimize everything from the grocery store checkout to a customer service call center. Each one is like a pre-built framework for a whole class of real-world problems.
Now, all of these are genuinely fascinating, but for us today, we're going to laser focus on that very last one, the one that's highlighted, the competition prototype. This is the blueprint that gets right to the heart of our original question. What's the smartest strategy when you're facing a rival?
So let's really dig into that. This section is all about the competition prototype, which is OR's dedicated framework for breaking down and analyzing strategic conflicts. But okay, what does that actually mean? What makes a problem a competition problem in the eyes of an OR scientist? It really boils down to three key ingredients. First, the main question is always, what's the best strategy? Second, it's obviously happening inside a conflict or a competition. And third, and this is the absolute kicker, you have to choose your actions by thinking about the actions of your opponent. Your best move depends entirely on their best move. You can't just decide in a bubble.
Okay, so if that's the blueprint for the problem, that brings us to the tool you actually use to solve it. What's it called?
The answer is game theory. This is the mathematical engine that powers the whole thing. Honestly, you can think of it as the science of strategy itself. And this slide really puts the OR approach into perspective. I mean, look at the contrast. On the left, you've got the traditional way of doing things, just kind of repeating what you did before, copying what other people are doing, or just, going with your gut. But the OR and game theory approach is a world apart. It forces you to actually build a model, to map out the situation scientifically, and to predict and compare what happens with every single move and countermove. It's really the difference between guessing and calculating.
All right, let's bring this all home. Why does any of this matter? How does understanding this stuff actually give you a real-world strategic advantage? How do we go from theory to action?
I think this quote from the source material absolutely nails it. The whole point is to help management to determine its policy and action scientifically. This isn't just an academic exercise. It's about making better, smarter, and frankly, more defensible decisions when the stakes are high.
So, the bottom line is this. Operations research, and especially game theory, gives you a powerful, structured way to think about competition. It's a repeatable process, a playbook that helps you move past simple intuition and into the realm of real, scientific decision-making.
And that kind of leaves us with one final question for you to think about. We're all playing some kind of game in our lives, whether it's in our career, in business, or somewhere else. So, what's your most important game right now? And using this kind of thinking, what's your next strategic move?